Monday the 24th of July was a momentous day. We finally got a Bond 25 announcement containing 2 snippets of information. First, we now have a US release date, November the 8th, 2019. This means the UK and the rest of the world release date will be around 2 weeks earlier, so somewhere around October the 25th. It also means yet another 4-year wait between Bond films. The other announcement is that regular Bond scribes Neil Purvis and Robert Wade will be taking the reins once again. No news yet as to whether they will be joined by anyone else to add the polish. What wasn't announced at the time was the news that everyone was waiting for. Will Craig return for one more, or are we going to be getting a new Bond in 2019? The director has also been kept under wraps, and the new studio distributor of the Bond films, meant to have been announced in the spring of 2016, is still a mystery. One thing is likely though. It looks like Sony have ended their 4-film association with Bond, as Bond 25 did not feature at all on their upcoming slate of films for 2018 and 2019. However, this didn't stop the Bond rumour floodgates opening up, with tabloids in particular speculating on all things Bond. First out of the blocks, however, was the New York Times, who boldly declared, on the same day as the Ion announcement, that Craig would be back for another Bond outing. They said that Craig's return is a done deal, after speaking to 2 people who'd been briefed on the matter on the condition of remaining anonymous. The 2019 release could be down to ensuring they have Craig in a clear window to film the next Bond, as he's recently had a number of other commitments to focus on. This may also be a way to keep him sweet, giving him time in between his Bond films to pursue other projects. All eyes then turned to Daniel Craig's involvement with the promotional tour of Logan Lucky. Inevitably, every single interview he would carry out would see the Bond question being thrown at him. Surely something would have to be mentioned sooner rather than later. His first day of radio interviews didn't look too good. Posed the question, he simply answered that no decision had been made yet. He assured everyone that he wasn't holding out for more money. He just put it down to lots of personal decisions having to be made. This led to some fans calling for his exit, claiming that if the part meant a lot to him, he would say yes in an instant. Others speculating that he was holding out to see how good the script turned out to be. His day of interviews was to end with an appearance on the Stephen Colbert Show. Some believe that he'd be there purely for the Logan Lucky publicising and would bat off any Bond 25 questions in a similar manner. However, Craig has made appearances on this show before and has a warm and friendly relationship with Colbert. He isn't the best at interviews, but he certainly appears more at ease on this show. No doubt a deal was struck with the show that this would be where the announcement was made, and so it was to be. Asked a point-blank question, Craig's answer was a definite yes. No maybe, no I'm thinking about it, just yes. He went on to say that this would definitely be his last, that he couldn't be happier to be playing Bond one last time, and that he simply required a break from the role. He defended himself over the much-talked-about slashed wrists comment, suggesting that the worst time to be asked about his future as Bond is a couple of days after shooting is wrapped on the current one. He ended the interview by saying that he wanted to end on a high note, which suggests he either felt that Spectre wasn't the fitting end he'd hoped for, or that he simply wants to ensure the next film is a strong one. This will make Craig the longest-serving Bond actor, beating Roger Moore by over 20 days as of the US release of this film. The next announcement is likely to be the director. Several names are in the frame, with Yann Demange, Denis Villeneuve and David Mackenzie apparently on the shortlist. All have had meetings with producers Broccoli and Wilson, according to Deadline. Variety then reported that Demange was the front-runner and that Warner Bros. Was favourite to distribute the film. It was reported that Demange was spotted leaving Ion HQ, adding fuel to the fire. We can, however, rule out Catherine Bigelow, who confirmed that she had been asked to direct in the past, but wasn't interested in taking it on. Despite what some fans want, it is extremely unlikely that Christopher Nolan will step into the director's chair. He's a director that wants creative control over his films, usually writing the script by himself or with his brother. This doesn't fit the Ion mould, where Broccoli and Wilson have a big involvement in the production and decision-making for the films. With Purvis and Wade already announced as the writing team, Nolan's not going to want to work alongside them. He has admitted to having met with the producers in the past, but he had recently said that the franchise would need him and would require reinvention. Don't rule him out for Bond 26, when we'll definitely be getting a new Bond and no doubt a soft reboot, particularly if rumours of Broccoli and Wilson letting go of Bond after the next film are true. Feel free to ignore all tabloid news in the next couple of years. They invent random stories during the lull between Bond films to sell papers and get people visiting their websites. The Daily Mirror is the winner for Best Fabricated News Story so far, with Bond 25 supposedly being based on Raymond Benson's Bond novel Never Dream of Dying, with filming due to take place in Croatia. The Sun soon picked up this story as well, despite Benson coming out and saying that he'd never spoken to the paper and that the story was completely untrue. The Bond films to date, with the exception of Spectre that borrowed the torture scene from Colonel Sun, have never used the title or substantial plot device from one of the non-Fleming novels. The same story has been used for Bond 23 and 24 in the past, with Carte Blanche and Devil May Care being suggested as the next Bond film. The Sun's Dan Wootton, regular Bond story inventor, even appeared on daytime TV to suggest Craig would be filming 2 Bond films back-to-back, with one being a remake of the past films. Remember, if Ion or a closely associated Bond actor have not officially announced it, take it with a pinch of salt. Sometimes they get lucky, but if you throw enough mud at the wall, eventually something's going to stick. The title is providing much speculation, as it always does, but it's unlikely to be announced until the official press conference, which will be held around a year before release, if it repeats the pattern of past Bond films. Risiko, the last interesting sounding Fleming story title not already used, and the Fleming-inspired Shatterhand, an alias of Blofeld, are heavily favoured by fans. A Blofeld continuation is very likely, if they can tempt Christoph Waltz back with a decent script, so Shatterhand is a good shout. Could we be heading for the S trilogy? Could Sam Mendes be back to complete what he started? Only time will tell. Expect news to start trickling out from now on. Next up is likely to be news on the director and distributor, with announcements regarding other crew arriving soon after. With a lot of potential returning cast members, we may get cast announcements sooner than we normally would. Watch this space.